Hi and welcome back to the channel.
I'm editor.
Behind the camera is,
Hi, photographer here.
and I've been given the moniker of Chin Just
And this Chan.
Yeah, that. Today's topic is going to be on how technology has impacted chess. And the first events we'll be covering will be the first few chess machines, the first computers, the increase in computing power, and Google's DeepMind. So let's start with 1770. This was when the first chess playing machine rose to prominence, and he had a fantastic name, the Mechanical Turk.
Turk?
Yeah.
As in Turkish Turk.
Yeah, Turk. So it traveled the continent, playing historical figures that you would find in textbooks, such as Ben Franklin and Napoleon Bonaparte. What's more, this was actually 150 years before the first of its kind. Afterwards, there are other series, right? This is actually 150 years before.
Oh wow.
So of course, it was nothing more than a scam, and a brilliant one at that. So this person, this genius, right, Wolfgang von Keppen, traveled the world, the continent, playing with famous individuals. Quite brilliant, right? It's quite a free scam, interesting scam, but on to the proper ones. So the first few chess machines were actually founded in the 1950s, but back then the computing powers and the algorithms that were available were not so good. So as you would expect, they were quite shit. They just sucked.
They didn't have any learning capabilities or any prediction skills.
It's not that they didn't have any learning capability, rather it's more of the algorithms in place are not able to process the game of chess, and furthermore, the computers lack the calculating ability to sustain throughout a chess game or to foresee in the future.
At that point in time, they just moved from using wooden bricks to calculate a bloody calculator to like
Machine
mechanic.
for
No,
chess.
actually,
Yeah,
interestingly, the first algorithm was like one of the first one done by Turing. Something called Turing algorithm. Then, but the best part, you know who was calculating, right? It was him himself, Alan Turing was calculating.
Okay.
So he calculated his own
So
algorithm.
it wasn't an algorithm, it was just with a person behind.
Well, no, so there was an algorithm in place, right? But it was him that calculated it. Because the computer just wasn't able to, too complex. But he followed the algorithm and calculated, taking about, what was it, 10 minutes per move roughly? Okay, moving on. So they also had pretty funny names such as like Bernstein, Turing machine, all the other English people. Nowadays it's more of animals such as stockfish and Komodo. Sound quite pretty famous, Komodo and stockfish.
I would imagine Komodo is the strongest of all chess machines.
It's quite a popular one, it is pretty strong also. But I think it's currently now there's a very interesting player known as Alpha Zero. And I'll discuss more about that later. So in this span, right, so in 1950s to about 2000s, it's about 40 odd years, and computing power rose, and this was also alongside the computer's ability to calculate and the efficiency of its algorithm. Ultimately, this culminated in a man versus machine showdown in 1997. Are you aware of which one this is?
No? Weren't there so many?
So okay, this man versus machine in particular took place in 1996 and 1997. The first one was actually defended by the human, that's why no one knows about it. Garry Kasparov, the world champion then, took down IBM's Deep Blue in 1996, 4-2 in a 6-point match. So it was pretty good, 4-6.
Close.
Somewhat, but I think it was because it was draws. That's why because you draw, you give half a point to the opponent. So that's why. So 4-2 is quite decent. But then, right, the following year they rematched. But this time the computing power was all on the rise, right? So it improved better. Well, Kasparov also tried, right at the same standard roughly. So what happened next was they played again the following year, 1997. But this was now won by the machine, 3-1 to 2-1. But actually, in my mind, based on the result, 3-1 to 2-1 is very, very close. So both of them both won games and lost games. But I think it was just Gary was very a little bit out of form. So, but anyways, on from that, right, this actually most people mark as a turning point. Turning point in the sense that, so what happens here is technology will only get better and humans cannot keep up really. And so that's been the case for the past about 20 years or so. Until more recently in about 2016. So now the average computer, the average phone, with some sort of chess engine, can probably beat, I don't know, any grandmaster,
Even the world champion Magnus Carlsen?
I would think so. They'll give him a run for his money. Of course, in online play there are more practical elements. So if let's say someone's trying to use a computer to cheat, it'll be more difficult, so because they have to wait for the computer to show a move, then they have to register the move, right? So at faster time controls, human players who've automated this process are quicker. That aside, so now what has happened here is the advent of Google's Mind's AlphaZero. So that's the more recent one. So what it is, it's a very interesting system. So far, all the computers so far, they rely on calculating power and algorithm to understand what's happening in the game of chess. So they just brute force it. So when I guess how AlphaZero does it?
It thinks.
It thinks. I think that's a very interesting way to put it. It kind of does that. So computers can't exactly think as of the state they are in now, but what they can do is they can learn, and how they do this is for, I believe, this AlphaZero, right? So what they did was they coded in the rules of chess. Then what ensued next was AlphaZero was then able to play with itself tens of thousands of times within hours, and then it magically improved. Because it knew what defeat was, what checkmate was, and how to avoid it after the thousands of games. So okay, one very interesting one was actually against, I think, Lee Sedol. Lee Sedol is a 16-time world champion for Weiqi, also known as Go. So in this, so what happened in 2016 was there was a match, a 5-point match here, and it was horribly dominated by the machine, because it was able to learn Go, which was an exceptional feat. Because Go is actually, if you see the game, Go is a square board, right? There is no value to any piece. So you can only learn with experience. And that made it exceptionally challenging to program. An ordinary program would have a lot of difficulty trying to do it. But this was interesting because they play, and from this play they have a probability. And this probability ultimately won, because Lee Sedol lost 1-4 versus the machine.
That's really overwhelming.
Yeah. And also more interestingly, this has also revolutionized more of modern international chess. So, on top of that, right, this AlphaZero also managed to take down the state, at the point in time, the state-of-the-art chess machines. So in particular here, it took down Stockfish in a 100-game match with 28 wins and 78 draws.
78 draws.
Yeah.
So, Stockfish didn't win any.
Yeah, it didn't win any. And that was the state of the art at that point in time. The pinnacle that we thought chess could be played. For international. That's interesting, I'll be honest. I thought. So, but this interesting thing about AlphaZero is it didn't play actually like how the modern engines play. They play more like how a human would play, but not so much human, but superhuman. They played it like how a human would do. It's something that we can understand. Sometimes computer play we cannot understand. It's very complex. It doesn't make sense until we see it. Like see some kind of concrete reason behind it. So based on calculation. But for this AlphaZero's play, there were some beautiful games where it demonstrated how you can. It demonstrated the flaws that current systems have, and that is brute force calculating cannot bring you to the end of the game, and that there's a need for some positional understanding of game. So this has shattered the paradigm, revolutionizing the way we think about chess. Even the world champion has taken notice that, like, you know Magnus Carlsen? He employed some of the techniques, and to pretty good success. I think some of the key ones he's done is learning how to push certain pawns. It mimics the play he's played, and it's very interesting. Anyways, this is the end of our video, and see you next time.
Bye bye.